So right, let's get into this episode then. So I actually thought, by the way, this is where, like, obviously, I know to some degree what he's going to talk about. I have no idea on you, Jaska, so it's totally open floor here, mate. You go whatever angle you want to take on any of these topics. You just give me your thoughts, basically. I actually thought we might talk just initially about that, actually, what I teased in the opener, where obviously, because my sponsor is a crypto sponsor, I have been interested to follow the plot with the LCS, where basically, if people remember, off the top of my head, I'm going to say like a month ago now, it was actually TSM who announced they were doing a long-term partnership with FTX, which is an exchange for cryptocurrency. And basically, here's the detail that everyone forgets in that story, right? Idiot TSM fans obviously like barely know English, so they just saw the name, like, oh, sponsor, and then they saw the number. Oh my God, they saw like a screw in their brain. It was like they saw Reggie as Scrooge McDuck, like a fucking giant vault of money. They didn't notice, right? It was a 10-year deal. So even though the number was obscene, it was 210 million. It was technically, that's about 21 million a year, obviously. Like, so actually, it's, by the way, that's not actually even like the most absurd sponsorship you'd hear of an esports. There are other really big orgs that have like similar size deals from enormous brands. But the interesting thing to me was, obviously, when that was announced, it sort of simultaneously came with this news where Riot was sort of like, whoa, look, you can have that sponsor, but they can't be like on the jersey, and basically it's not going to be part of your LCS content. It's going to sort of be like, it was implied like maybe you use the League of Legends players, but they like outside of the context of pro play could do a video about it, or maybe it's other aspects of the org. I'm assuming like all the Fortnite type kid shit, you know, right? So then the follow-up story, and this is what we might talk about now, is that FTX, the same sponsor, is now sponsoring the LCS itself, which effectively means, which is the point everyone obviously instantly said on Twitter, which is like, well, that is a bit rich that Riot sort of like, we can't show that on the LCS broadcast, except for a price. Yeah, like they instantly sort of like, you know, like just changed their own mind. Now, here's the thing. That's one angle. You can go with that. The other angle to me is more like the abstract general concept of like, there haven't been that many sponsors of things like the LCS, to be fair, and you want them to be in big things. Obviously, it's in an emerging market, etc. So I think you don't have to, you can make this any angle that you want on this. What would you say about this topic, Nymira? Because I'm always interested. Like, I never expect people to be experts in business, it's a different domain, but I'm always interested in what people's thoughts are. If you think it can have some impact.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously the FTX deal with TSM, it was a name sponsor, so like they are TSM FTX now, but then effectively Riot said, oi, not on LCS. And as far as I'm aware, the FTX thing with LCS is not going to be name sponsor internationally. So I'm trying to remember if that was a part of it. So it's not
something like that.
Something like that. But then you look at what the LCS have been doing in terms of placing their sponsors already. You've got already a lot of stuff on banners, right? So you've got, I mean, in the LCS, you've got like Kit Kat stuff. You've got State Farm Analyst Desk, the freaking Bud Light Ace and the Red Bull Baron Power Play. Like, it's already getting pretty deep into everything that is going to recur. Is now got a quite large monetary value just in terms of the exposure to that sponsors will get from that in terms of the gameplay stuff. I'm not sure at what point it starts like really affecting the quality of the broadcast when you pin a sponsor on absolutely everything that happens. I'm already getting a little bit annoyed being like, oh, it's not just an ace, it's a Bud Light Ace. But obviously one of the big things about esports is trying to make things sustainably economic, because I mean, you can talk hours and hours about how money isn't getting back to the teams, it isn't getting back to the players, power is in the hand of the developer.
Sure.
And we don't have TV deals yet. We don't have that. You know, you're not a Six Nations rugby competition where you can do with various different national TV competitions, and rugby is my main sport, so that's one I tend to go
Fair
to.
Enough.
So I'm kind of interested what FTX are actually getting out of this, if it's not a naming deal. Because I haven't looked into the details too much. I mean, I saw the initial announcement, like, funny that name's back. Funny that's been a little bit in there. I think the main thing for me about this is the PR doesn't seem to be that clear, which is quite a common thing in esports. I think we can all acknowledge that. So I'm really interested in seeing what the LCS is going to get value out of this, and then also why the heck didn't they communicate what the actual specifics of it are, if it's going to bring a bit of that hypocrisy with it.
You have any thoughts, Jaska?
Yeah, so I'll kind of go on the other angle, which is more of like the morals and ethics angle. So this is the same company that sort of had the Neom deal almost a year ago. Yes. And that Neom deal was massive. And if it had gone through, it would have been amazing for the sustainability aspect. And it's to kind of contrast it with the sort of FTX crypto deal, is that, what's it called? There is kind of a general pushback against crypto, like in the zeitgeist, about all of these different issues with it. It seems like that's something that's being pushed pretty hard.
The volatility. Esports is already volatile. Crypto is also volatile. So it's like a little bit worries about that, I think, from what I've heard.
Yeah. And so there is a little bit of pushback on that, but obviously not as much as the Neom deal. So I imagine this is just going to go through. And in the same sense as the Neom deal, with any other sponsorship, they would have taken a lot less money. But it seems like the FTX and the Neom deal were much more than the PR is kind of worth it. They kind of probably expected that there was going to be a bit of a PR hit for both of these. Probably underestimated it with the Neom deal, and then had a pretty accurate grasp on this FTX deal, which is going to be great for the sustainability of the league. But there really aren't that many sponsorships coming into it, and this is really kind of a great kind of fallback to have, because LCS viewership is generally just down. A lot of people are kind of getting burnt out on this kind of stuff. The format causes the entire regular season to mean nothing, because spring goes into summer and then 8 teams get in. So pretty much the entire year doesn't matter. Like 9 teams were in contention until basically the last game. And so all of these things considered, it would be very good for the sustainability of the esport, and in general, there's a lot of money being thrown around through like crypto and crypto sponsorships. So them and Neom seem to be the only people who could kind of really pay these sort of premiums for getting past the PR barrier.
Sure. Right, I've got a few angles on this one. Like, first of all, and I'll just address very briefly the whole TSM versus Riot angle, which is sort of like, why is TSM not allowed it? And even though you are right, like, I think contextually, it's not like they're literally doing what they said. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not quite as simple as people made out. It is a little bit though. Like it almost implied like, well, we'll sort of let you have the sponsor, but we sort of do frown on it in some sense. Like they are implying they don't want it on the broadcast, but on the other hand, yeah, it does make it seem like, but if you pay us, then maybe we do want it. Like, which is like, come on, Riot. Like, that's just usual Riot tricks, which is, unfortunately, this is the main reason, by the way, to go to what you were saying about how, like, the game dev has basically all the control right now. The downside of that, like, I have no problem with them having ownership and control and have rights, etc. Like, those are all, like, listen, property rights are essentially, like, the fundamental fucking like foundational point of like Western civilization. So I'm sure we can all accept that they probably need to exist. My issue is just that like Riot does seem to almost have like an uncharitable element to how they do this, where they give me the vibe that's like, since this is mine and you want to do something with what's mine,
to a different
like,
standard.
Yeah, like either I need to be the one who primarily benefits, even though I might not be doing anything involved with it, or actually I might just say, since I don't benefit enough, you just can't do it. Which is like, listen, again, I understand the premise if you own the overall thing. The problem I have is we're just, think of the ambience of this conversation, is that we all know like the teams are losing money out the ass, like the players have enormous salaries, that basically the show is bigger in terms of optics than actually like the substance behind it in terms of the business. So the problem is like, it's not really like a great look that the fucking massive game do have all the power. It's sort of like, oh, you peasants cannot make money, but I can. Like, that's not a great look in itself, but that's also par for the course if you've just seen the way that LCS teams have gone. Then the other angle is, I totally agree, by the way, it might seem from the outside like, well, what are you even getting from it if you can't even put, like, logically, by the way, if I sponsored TSM and I had like a real company that has to make like profit, I have to show something to my shareholders, yeah, I would consider it a failure if I sponsored TSM and I can't have my logo on the brand of the League of Legends jersey, because if I'm coming from an esports perspective, League of Legends is their main shit as far as I'm concerned, it's like, but that's why the fact that they're crypto and the fact that they're like more of a fringe sponsor is what makes this actually probably a great deal for them. Just as actually, if you think about I'll give you a perspective of my own. When I myself work with a crypto sponsor, well, one reason why they'd be way more horny to work with me is because they don't have the option of sponsoring every team out there and all the big people in esports. Like some people don't want to be with either betting or crypto. That's just an immediate no, or they just worry what the implications could be. So immediately that makes not only someone like me potentially more appealing, but it means potentially you have to pay more for that because there's less people that even can take the sponsorship. So
more exclusivity.
Yes, the good news is, like, absolutely, there's going to be no issue on their end. Like, companies, in this case, if it's betting or if it's crypto market, it's betting and crypto, but in this case, it's just an exchange. Their logic will be like this. There's not that many, like, legit big places we can sponsor. So I assume, for real, the FTX angle is this. Look, yeah, we're not going to get directly on the broadcast, but the fact that people even are hearing in the association and the name FTX means that, like, if they happen to also be in the same Venn diagram overlap of someone who's at the same time seeing cultural zeitgeist of like, wow, everyone's into crypto now. If they then decide to buy crypto and set up on an exchange, it's at least in their brain that they might go, maybe I'll try FTX. You know what I mean?
The more you hear it, the more it normalizes it.
I would assume that's basically the main thing they're getting out of this. Which, by the way, if you consider the fact that these sorts of companies, if they're done well, are basically like a license to print money, as betting companies often are, it's not even that bad. It's worth paying over the odds just to get your eyeballs, from these people.
One thing I'd say about the League of Legends thing, because I know you're saying like TSM, like primarily to us, they will be a League of Legends thing, but like if you go towards the Fortnite thing as well, I mean, you think about the way I view League of Legends, that it's like the biggest esport in the world, which no one really talks about outside of the sphere. It doesn't really branch out outside of the sphere.
Doesn't have much overlap,
especially in North America, especially in the West. When you're getting towards Europe and stuff, that gets a bit bigger again. But of course, TSM, obviously mainly NA, despite having massive fans within the English-speaking audience. When you have something like Fortnite, that's something which so many people have their kids playing, have kids' friends playing, stuff like that. It does have more outreach like that. So I think losing the League of Legends thing, it's a hit in terms of the name and not being able to show in the LCS, but I think that you look at some of the other things, the bleed out effect of that is potentially quite high, although I'm not that well versed on the numbers for it. So it'll be interesting to see how much value that gets.
I think TSM's YouTube views from League of Legends content is actually a very small amount of their content. Like some TSM videos could get like 50,000 max views, while their other Fortnite stuff gets several million views. There's also that, but then TSM solo queue players have FTX in their name, so that kind of shows up on all sort of League of Legends content that you see. So even if it's not necessarily on the LCS broadcast, you're going to see it on every stream, on every YouTube video, on all of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Here's the dark thing, though. It's like, and this is real, I'm not even trolling when I say this. Years ago, like I'm off the top of my head, I'm talking like 2013. So we're talking for a long people, like an age ago in esports. I actually, no joke, did make a joke one time. I think I even did it on Twitter where I said, this is when like at the time there was not many mainstream companies in esports. My joke was, since I knew esports was like a fucking black hole of just throwing money in it, it's going to be that way for a long time. I even said back then, we should actually objectively try and court the most fringe possible sponsors. So the joke I said was, we should try and get South American drug lords, we should try and get East European pimps and North African gun runners. Now, here's the thing, I intentionally like framed it that way to be like a ridiculous, like premise. It's not even that fucking far from the truth at this point when you look at like the Neon deal. Like I was almost too on the nose with that one. Like I meant it as a joke, guys. I just meant like, if you really want any money, because my joke back in the day, not that it's literally money laundering, but like you need people essentially where they can't use the money anywhere else. They have to sort of blow it somewhere that never make like the most sense. So esports, I meant it as a joke, but actually it's becoming that sort of like, it's just another place you can dump your money.
And kind of relevant to that is, I mean, even back in 2013, wasn't it TSM Snapdragon as well? They had another name sponsor.
Yeah, they had one at the beginning.
Plenty of teams have been through this. Like, it's not unusual to have name sponsors. I think the main thing is that TSM for League of Legends is TSM. It's never going to be TSM FTX, or LoL Esports doesn't want it to be because they want TSM to kind of remain it like that, I would imagine. So I wonder if that factored into Riot as well. Just been like, no, we don't want to destroy this sacrosanct kind of thing that we've had so many impressions of over the years with.
Yeah, and with that, keep going, Matt. Yeah. Wait, hang on. With the aspect of kind of having more safe sponsors versus not, you look at the Overwatch League as an example, and they were going like super Disneyfied. Like they were literally on the Disney Channel. They had to have super safe sponsorships, and they couldn't necessarily take something like a Bud Light sponsorship and FTX sponsorship.
Alcohol stuff's based on average age for your audience as well in North America as well, isn't it? Doesn't your average age have to be above 21? The average age of the LCS is above 21. It's a general problem with League, especially in NA, is that less than 10% of players are under 18, which does kind of worry everybody about the future of the game.
Yes. That's also, by the way, one of the weirdest things to me about League of Legends, the game, is that if you actually didn't know what you just said, that stat there, most people would guess, oh, it's a game for kids, isn't it? Look at the way the broadcast set up, look at the champions in the game, like the designs of characters like Lulu. You would just assume everyone's 15. But as far as I know, though, true, but even then, that's more like just the anime, like dark element in it. Like, no, but the mad thing to me is this: people don't realize it's true, actually, that it's just that obviously the people who are like 25, they're just the vocal fucking minority. No, they're the unvocal majority, rather. They just don't. I think a lot of those people, basically, it's one of the reasons why, like, me and Monty's content always succeeded, that they don't really get served by the main broadcast. Like, I've always thought that was one of the weirdest things Riot did anyway. Because basically, my problem with Riot and business goes like this. Like I said before, I'm not trying to tell them what to do with their business. They can do what they want. But I sort of at least got the vibe before Tencent, like, kind of heavy-handed them behind the scenes and had bought all the shares, that they used to openly say in their like sort of PR releases, they would basically say, we don't do the esports side just to make money, essentially. We do it for, they would frame it as, how we want the game. Yeah, how we want the game to be perceived and, what people should think of it. Now, that all sounds great if you don't need to make money. Essentially, you're just doing it for whatever your level of control is. The problem is, when the Tencent people came in, I mean, it was basically just implied, like, no, this is a business, like, make money. Like, go out there and all the esports properties make money, do more events. That. So my problem with that is, like, we were always going to eventually have to become more serious and actually, like, try and actually, in this case, you're going to have to tap into the part of the fan base that doesn't have any current connection to broadcast. I
think the LEC has done a little bit different on that in terms of, like, broke away from the EU LCS kind of branding they ever had, and kind of like being Riot NA's bitch and, like, kind of being the second fiddle and all this other stuff. LEC, I don't think it necessarily went entirely serious, but it did diversify content. It made it less... sanitary is not the word, but, like, less streamlined and less, like, airbrushed to be broadcast friendly. And I think that
it's a bit more raw.
Yeah, it's a bit more raw, but they've also done stuff like, they've weaponized their players' personalities. They've done that with their talent as well, their external content.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.